Hey, my name is Fred Legard, and I asked myself the question, what is the biggest destructive issue that we're dealing with today that we are responsible for in the world, that we're suffering most from? And I think that issue that we have the most control over are all the wars and all the killing and all the hatred in the world. And that must come from someplace. Something must cause that. I believe in cause and effect. So what do I think causes that? I think there are laws with human nature that are causing that. Emotions or driven factors in us. Selfishness or self-interested motivation rather than a motivation for fairness for all. We're working from the ego side of ourselves when we try to control everything. We want control, we want power, and it leads to cynicism, and also eventually it's really destructive for everyone. Where do those feelings come from? Those feelings, those driven factors like apathy and selfishness. It was hard figuring out where these personality traits, where these driving factors come from. So what I did was that I searched for to involve myself with psychology and get a more scientific perspective on this. I chose to study a diagnosis called narcissistic personality disorder, and which relates to those feelings like apathy, having a lack of empathy for others, and an extreme self-interest in terms of what motivates them. So I did some research on narcissism, and I found out that most psychologists agree on that narcissism develops from a really young age, and the biggest input, the biggest factor that determines whether you become narcissistic or not is the parenting, because it's the most important input. Everything you put out there in the world comes from within, and everything you have from within comes from the input that you've had. So the people that you've listened to, all the experiences you've had, and the most powerful of them is certainly parenting. So how can narcissistic tendency develop from parenting? The parents can have narcissistic tendencies themselves, so the children will be affected by that. Children haven't learned that they can't always get what they want. They expect to always get what they want. And on stages where they haven't gotten what they want, they have probably not understood that. Maybe the parent has just said, "Oh, you know, are you stupid or something? Don't you know that you can't always get what you want?" If they say it without understanding and empathy, the child will not get it, even though the parent is certainly saying it. There's a phase when the child grows up where the child separates itself from itself. It thinks it's the center of the world the first year, and there's a phase where they realize that there are other people that we're sharing this world together. And that is a phase where the child needs a lot of understanding and empathy from the parent. And if those needs are not met in that phase, a narcissistic personality is starting to develop. When the parent wants to criticize the child, because it needs to sometimes the child goes out of hand, can go crazy with teachers, bullying others, stealing things. If the parent raises the voice too loudly, the child might feel rejected, and when they feel rejected, they don't feel loved anymore. So it's important that the child knows that the parent loves them, and that the parent offers understanding and empathy whenever they criticize and correct their children. If there's a lot of love and caring in the child-parent relationship, that's going to affect the child's self-esteem in a positive way, which is going to prevent narcissistic behavior. Narcissistic behavior comes from low self-esteem. If the child has had a lot of rejection, disapproval growing up, they're going to grow up with a need for always being good, because they think that if they are good, then they are good enough. And that's going to make them really stressful and needy and cynical, doing everything they can to win. Maybe the child has gotten a lot of superlative compliments growing up, even though the performances weren't that good. So it's important that the parent gives only genuine compliments, so the child has a more balanced impression of itself compared to the world that they're going to meet someday. Not everything the child is doing is amazing, so give genuine compliments, authentic. The most important thing for parenting is to be what you teach. So be the person that you want the child to be the person that you want yourself to be. You should take care of your own happiness, and the child is also going to see that and experiencing the energy flow coming out of you. Teach them equality. Let them know that they're not better than anyone else, because that's going to influence the ego again. But let them also know that they're just as good as anyone else. That's going to give them high self-esteem and not needing to control everything. They're going to let people be. A need for power is weakness disguised as strength. So in conclusion, have love, empathy, understanding for the child, and be genuine and authentic. Be the person you want your child to be. Parenting is said to be the most important job in the world, and also said to be the best thing you can do to change the world as an individual. If you raise your child to become an individual with character and a high self-esteem rather than a high ego, you're gonna be responsible for less greed in the world, less war, and a lot more peace.